When you start gardening, you begin to see the world in a new way. You begin to learn not only through books or volunteered advice from other gardeners, but through experience. You learn what works and what doesn't work for your environment, your climate, the soil beneath you, what it needs, and what it doesn't need. You begin to listen to the plants, the insects, and watch how they change based on how you interact with them, how you talk to them, and touch them. And when you begin to cultivate an even deeper relationship with Mother Earth and the nature around you, your perspective on life changes. You begin to understand that we are not separate from nature, but a part of it. The healthy microbes in the soil that you know are so important for growing healthy plants are equally just as important as the microbes within ourselves. The microbes we consume through the plants we eat that come directly from the soil also change and affect the microbiome that we too have within our own bodies. A healthy soil on earth means a healthy body for us. And the sun above that we know is so important for the life of any living plant is equally just as important as the life and energy it gives to our own bodies. Nature reflects back to us what our own body needs to be healthy and happy. When we are in tune with nature, we find balance within ourselves and the world around us. We had a week of rain, which also created a humid, muggy environment for all different kinds of pests to start exploring my garden. While some insects can be beneficial to the garden, some can also be detrimental. But what we must not forget are the messages we receive from these amazing insects, revealing what could potentially be wrong with the environment for our plants and showing us where balance needs to be restored. The first pests I noticed in my gardens were slugs. And because I don't use any chemicals in my garden, I instead use organic methods to get rid of these pests. Once the rain stopped, I laid down some diatomaceous earth around the base of the plants. That didn't help much, so I also set up a few traps. But I later heard that setting up traps with beer inside can act as a beacon for other slugs to come from further distances. So I scratched that idea because I did not want to attract more than I already had. I instead started to pick them off one by one. Each day, there was less and less slugs. And even though it was a little time-consuming in the mornings, I found it to be quite meditative, especially with the morning sun rising and the peaceful sound of the birds singing. I tried to herd the chickens into the garden to help with the slugs, nature's divine way of solving a problem. But at the time, they were still not comfortable leaving the outside perimeter of their coop. Since then, they have willingly joined me in the garden, and now I can barely keep them out. They love it. This has become our morning routine, me tending to the garden and the chickens following me around like little puppies chasing after their mother. I enjoy the company, and they help keep the insect problem in check.
As if your first breath here on earth stole the very wind out of my lungs and every word off of my tongue. I've been a vessel up till now, son. But what next, dear one? But what next, dear one? into your eyes. I couldn't help but wonder, what would you see in me tonight? I've done the best I can for now, son. But what next, dear one? But what next, dear one?
For some of the biting insects, I combined rainwater, neem oil, rosemary, and peppermint in a few dashes of organic plant-based soap. I sprayed this on all of my plants without any issues, and it has helped keep the pests away. A friend also suggested horsetail tea as another way of keeping pests away. I started to have issues with a few of my plants that are outside of my fenced-in garden along the border of the neighboring woods. I was scratching my head trying to figure out what went wrong and was desperate to find a way to help these plants. I quickly got into my car and drove to a local organic garden center and showed them photos of what was happening to my plants. They gave me organic spinosad. I used it on these 3 plants as soon as I got home, but then after doing more research on this, I learned that even though spinosad and Bt bacteria can be a natural and effective way at treating particular types of pests, they can also change the natural microbial environment for the plants and even affect our own gut microbiome when we consume the plants. That is when I came across JADAM. JADAM is a Korean method of organic low-cost farming or regenerative farming. It's focused on soil biology and soil health. In the JADAM method, there are several different solutions that are used, such as a microorganism solution that is cultured from boiled potatoes, salt, leaf mold, and clean, soft water like rainwater, which helps break down the soil contaminants and improves the soil texture, which helps the roots grow wide and deep for higher yields. Another JADAM solution used is a natural pesticide and fungicide made with only plants and sulfur. It's effective and doesn't harm or disrupt the natural microbes in the soil. It's also super easy to make.
They put me on hold. Told me to take a guess only one thing is in our power.
We got time.
I ain't making it up. Oh, we got time. We got time. The clouds are having a convention.
We got time. We got time.
They're sick and tired of making rain.
We got time. We got time.
I'm wondering when they're gonna see the sun.
We got time.
Oh, but you and I, we don't complain. 'Cause we got time. We got
With all the chemical pesticides, the bugs over time adapt. And then you have to keep using stronger and stronger chemicals, which destroys the soil biology, not to mention your own gut microbiome when you eat the plants, even after you wash them. It was the American poet, novelist, and environmentalist Wendell Berry who said that the soil is the great connector of lives, the source and destination of all. It is the healer and restorer and resurrector, by which disease passes into health, age into youth, death into life. Without proper care for it, we can have no community, because without proper care for it, we can have no life. The soil microbiome and our own gut microbiome are deeply connected. Our ancestors lived close to the land, and yet over the years we have moved further and further away from it. Our contact with soil has reduced, and with the industrialization of agriculture and the use of pesticides, antibiotics, and hormones, it has impacted our health. As parts of the world looks more towards regenerative farming and focuses on restoring the ecosystem of the soil beneath our feet, this could hold the key to restoring the health of humankind. I believe that everything we need to be healthy and happy can be found on this earth, in nature. When we reconnect with Mother Earth and a simpler way of living, we begin to feel more whole and can feel every aspect of our being in tune with the world around us. It's as though we have returned home, and it feels right and familiar, as though we had never left home at all.